BUS413, Tips and Tricks to Succeeding. My name is Steph Bennett. I'm a Learning Development Tutor in the Hub. Today's aims: to develop an understanding of academic writing practices in preparation for an upcoming report assignment. We will look at breaking down the assignment brief, reading, drafting and moving forward. Breaking down the brief. Your assignment type this time around is a report and the weighting is 70%, so you've got another component to this module. Your word count is 2,500 plus or minus 10%. The overarching big umbrella topic of this assignment is finance. The angle that you're looking at this from is the perspective of a senior financial controller preparing to train a new financial administrator. And obviously, you're looking at it through the perspectives of theory. The assignment brief is instructing you to do the following: to demonstrate, to identify, to discuss, evaluate, and distinguish between. But you might be thinking, what do those things actually mean? So let's find out. Can you match the phrase to its correct description? Pause the video. Did you get it right? Evaluate is to assess the value of a position, idea or piece of evidence, considering the strengths and weaknesses to reach a conclusion. That might mean the theoretical models and frameworks that you're looking at. What are their strengths? What are their limitations? What does this tell you? Demonstrate, showing how with examples to illustrate. Distinguishing between, which is a really important component in the main body of the report. An analytical process of identifying and articulating key differences between two or more concepts based on relevant criteria, ensuring a clear and structured comparison. You have to clearly communicate the differences between the two. Identify. Pinpoint something due to prior understanding or experience. You have prior understanding because you're now kind of partway through the academic year. And finally, discuss. This is part of the criticality. Produce a debate using reasoning and supported by evidence to make cases for and against an argument. You're looking at both sides. Arrive at a conclusion by stating which side you find the most convincing. This is a great proofreading checklist. Just before you submit, go through and check: have I evaluated? Have I demonstrated? Have I distinguished between? Let's look at academic reading. By this point, you're probably old pros at academic reading. But let's do a quick revision. Firstly, we are going to start with our reading list, and we're going to select the suitable sources from there. You can book in with a librarian to help you locate literature, or you could use the advanced search on WorldCat, which I'm just going to show you in a moment, or you can try Boolean searching via Google Scholar. That's using your keywords in double quote marks separated by the words and or, and you can use synonyms of the same word, different spellings of the same word. Now let's have a look how to do the advanced search and the Boolean searching. This is WorldCat and this is advanced search. Here are your Boolean search operators. Let's change all these to keyword. Let's change this to all. Let's change this to keyword. Let's type in finance. Okay, and let's search. And here are all the sources returned regarding those keywords. Obviously your keywords will be far better than mine are because you're the specialist. Let's check Google Scholar. Let's start with our Boolean search, finance and SME or M&E. And here we go. Now let's narrow down those results by looking at something a little bit more recent. Lovely. you can further narrow down your results by adding in more keywords that are specific to your assignment brief and overarching topic. Okay, so once you've gathered your sources together, if you've got online books, head to the index, search for keywords associated to your assignment. Head to the contents, have a look at some of the chapter titles and whether they align with your topic. If you're looking at journals, read the abstracts and read the conclusions. Have you decided whether these sources are suitable for close reading or not? If they are, get reading. You can also look for literature by reference mining. Have a look at the authors that are being cited in the books and journals that you're reading. Head to the reference lists in those books and journals and use these sources. Also, if you're looking at a specific seminal author, they will most likely have lots of other publications. And the way you can find those other publications is by using ResearchGate. Let's have a look. This is a random author that I found on ResearchGate. And here you can see Research 189. And here are all of his pieces of research. And you can do the same thing. You just search for the author via ResearchGate, head to their research and see how many articles or book chapters they have written. Want to keep your findings and reading notes all in one place when you read? Why not try a reading table? And here is what one looks like. 3 columns. The first column, APA 7th reference and any chapter numbers that you want to include. Middle column, what does the source discuss? Why is it significant? Helpful quotes or pages. And the last column, links to other sources. Who agrees with what the author is saying, who disagrees and why. Here you can see I have some fake books, Barnett's book, Travis and Simpson's fake journal article and a fake website. You can see how I've started to break down these texts in the middle column. You can do the exact same thing because all of this information will feed into your report. And finally, the last column, how the sources connect to one another. Travis and Simpson have the same thoughts on blah 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 as Barnett. Barnett agrees with them about blah 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 because. However, Barnett disagrees with them about blah 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 because. It just helps you to create that debate that we just spoke about on your assignment brief. And also, it keeps all of your notes in one place. There are blank copies of this reading table available from the Learning Development Blackboard. Drafting. Let's have a look at how we might start to draft out this particular report, because there are 2 components to it, a reflective element and the report element. So what might it look like? How it shapes up is entirely up to you. It could look something like this, but please do not feel that this is a definitive structure at all. By no means. You are the specialist. Here we go, beginning with an executive summary. 250 words approximately included in the word count, and this will include a summary of what the report explored and why, as in the focus and purpose, a brief summary of what was discovered about the topic at hand, and the significance of what was discovered about the topic at hand. That eases us into our introduction, 250 words. Hook sentence, a snappy sentence that draws in the reader and outlines the topic of the assignment. For example, an organisation's financial function ensures its stability, growth and profitability. A bit of brief background information so the reader is not just diving in at the deep end as soon as they get to the main body, but you have laid the contextual foundations for them. For example, accordingly, financial function can be understood as a process wherein blah 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 blah, a citation. Focus and purpose. What will the report look at and why? That considered, this report will provide guidance to a trainee financial administrator at a hypothetical dealership from the perspective of a senior financial controller, outlining key financial responsibilities, best practices and essential controls to support accurate financial management and compliance. You don't have to write your focus and purpose like that. You might not even want to use the word hypothetical. You might want to say this report will provide guidance to a trainee financial administrator at a dealership from the perspective of a senior financial controller. You also, as well, might want to start with the focus and purpose. It's totally up to you. And finally, a map. You need to let the reader know what's going to happen. Signpost them through the report. It will begin by discussing this. Subsequently, it will look at this, concluding that. Then we head into the main body. Think about what subheadings you might want to use for this, because my subheadings might not be relevant or useful. I've just used them as a little bit of an example. Underneath each of your subheadings, you need to think in Peel paragraphs. And you have about 1750 words for the main body. So I've split it down into 4 subsections. Financial function, 430 words. Build on your introduction definition. What is financial function in more depth? What are best practices in this area and why? Use the literature. Connections with other functional areas, potential challenges met along the way and the impact and how these might be mitigated. Use the literature. SMEs, financial availability, 430 words. Describe and explain the types of finance available to the dealership, e.g. bank loans, government subsidies, etc. Use the literature. Obviously, you will better know what these things are than I do. What are the positive aspects of each of the types of finance? Use the literature. What are the limitations? Use the literature. M&Es, financial availability, 430 words. The same structure. Describe and explain the types of finance available. Use the literature. What are the positive aspects? What are the limitations? Use the literature. And finally, coming back to what we spoke about regarding distinguishing between financial accounting versus management accounting. What is financial accounting and why is it significant? Use the literature. What is management accounting and why is it significant? Use the literature. What are the differences between the two? You can use the literature again. Remember, if you want to include figures or images, you need to be doing it like this. Add in your picture, underneath figure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. Underneath that, a description of what it is, followed by brackets with the citation inside it. And remember, this is a report, so you might be expected to use figures to illustrate what you're trying to say. That ties back into that assignment brief, the word demonstrate. Show how, with examples to illustrate. And finally, the conclusion. 250 words. Return to what the focus and purpose was of the report, as in what you set out to do and why. Then you need to summarise your key findings. You also need to reiterate their significance. Why is it important to have an understanding of this information as a trainee financial administrator? You might also offer some recommendations for the trainee's future professional practice. Then we move to the references. We know they need to be in alphabetical order, and we know you need to use the Academic Integrity Guide to create them. And finally, if you need to use an appendix, each appendix will go on a separate page and they are labelled A, B and C. So I hope that gives a little bit of an outline as to what you need to be doing moving forward. Make sure you're writing in Peel paragraphs. It's really important to get your criticality in there, and this is a really logical format to do so. State the point you want to make. Always back it up with the evidence from the literature. What are the theories saying? Are there any studies where the outcomes back up what you're trying to say? Are there any policies or legislation you need to draw on? Then you need to explain. This is the critical element. What does it suggest? Why is it significant? What is the impact? And then you need to round everything up at the end. Overall, ultimately, as a result, and then we know you're coming to the end of that paragraph. Here is an example. Cost analysis is a core component of management accounting. There we go, clear and explicit point. Let's back it up with a bit of evidence. This involves tracking, analysing and managing the costs associated with producing goods or services within an organisation. These two are fake authors, so please do not cite them. Therefore, by developing an understanding of costs, managers can make more informed decisions about pricing, budgeting, cost control and profitability. CB 2024, again, another fake author. Let's go to a bit of criticality. What does the evidence suggest? This suggests that cost analysis may influence strategic business decisions by providing a thorough insight into the aforementioned facets. Let's go back to a bit of evidence again. Significantly emphasising where resources are being used or inefficiencies exist. Another two fake authors there. Let's go to more criticality. Regarding car dealerships, this may determine the viability of specific car models, enabling competitive pricing for more successful products or the inventory of slower moving models. Now let's tie it up with that link sentence to bring us to a close. Overall, this ensures better resource allocation and sales, suggesting cost analysis could maximise profits for the company. All of the peel components are in there. And there's a little bit of flexibility in how it mixes or moves between evidence explain. You can do that as well. You don't have to be really linear and add a point, add your evidence, explain it all and move to the link. If you need to move back and forth between the two E's, then you can do. Now let's go to the next part, the reflective commentary. You might have done a bit of reflective writing before. It's important to use a reflective framework because it can help guide your reflective writing. There are many to choose from. They can help prompt you to reflect on different aspects. They can ensure you include the necessary steps to create an effective reflection. They can bring about a range of conclusions, especially if you're using something like Brookfield's lenses, which looks at the experience from several different angles. They can help you to structure your reflective assignments. And we're going to look at Kolb and Gibbs, two of the reflective cycles I think could really support this particular assignment. Gibbs actually developed his reflective cycle off the back of Kolb's experiential learning cycle. Here is Kolb's. We start with concrete experience, what happened. We move to the reflective observation, why. We move to abstract conceptualization, what have you learned? And then active experimentation, what are you going to do now moving forward? Gibbs breaks it down in a little bit more detail than that. He starts with descriptions of what happened and moves to feelings. What did you feel during that? Then he moves to the evaluation. What were the positive and negative aspects of the situation? And the analysis, what went well and why, what went not so well and why. Then to the conclusion, what did you learn? And finally, the action plan. What are you now going to do moving forward? You can use them to create subheadings to create a really thorough 300-word reflection. And here's how. Kolb's experiential learning cycle, begin with your concrete. What happened regarding your learning experiences? How did it happen? How did you react? What approaches did you implement? Reflective observation. Why did these things unfold in this way during your learning experiences? Why did these things unfold this way during your learning? Why did you react this way? Why did you implement these approaches? Abstract conceptualization. What have you learned? How and why will this benefit you? What skills or knowledge do you now need to develop and why? And active experimentation. How do you intend to improve these skills and knowledge? Gibbs. You can put description and feelings together. What happened and how did you feel about it? Evaluation and analysis. You can put these two together. What were the positive and negative aspects of the situation, as in what went well and why? What went not so well and why? And then you can stick your conclusion and action plan together. What did you learn overall? Give some examples. How and why have you benefited from this? How could your learning experiences have been more effective? What skills and knowledge do you need to develop? And how are you going to go about developing them? Finally, let's get talking. Well, as we're online, let's get thinking. Moon has 4 levels of reflection. The fourth is critically reflective. I'm going to flash some examples on the screen and you are going to decide which is critically reflective. You can pause the video if you need to read through a little bit slower. Here's Moon's 4 levels. We have descriptive. This writing describes but does not reflect. Descriptive with some reflection. An account which describes but also indicates some points for reflection. We've got reflective writing. Some description, focused on certain points for reflection, some self-questioning, some self-analysis. And finally, what we're trying to get out of you is the critically reflective. The author has stood back from the event. They've questioned themselves and considered other views and motivations. It also considers what has been learned through the process. Now let's have a look at those examples, which is the critically reflective. Example A. Pause the video and have a read. Examples B, C and D. Pause the video and have a read. Did you get it right? It is B. B is the critically reflective. It introduces us to the reflection. It shows us what happened during the experience. It shows us what happened immediately following the experience, and it also links to the literature. And finally, it takes a step back, just like Moon said, and shows from an objective standpoint what they have learnt from this experience, and also, again, ties it in to literature. And finally, as you move forward, you can book in one-to-ones with myself and Jamie in learning development. You can book one-to-ones with digital learning, one-to-ones with the library to locate literature. If you need any help with academic writing, you can head to Scribber or the Learning Development Blackboard. And finally, if you have any questions or suggestions, you can email me at stephanie.bennett@bishopg.ac.uk.